Every season, up to 60% of small farm and backyard space goes unused. Not because of poor soil or bad seeds, but because of an invisible design flaw planted generations ago. Rows that were built for tractors, not for hands, quietly siphon away harvests and profit. Yet some growers are now pulling off the impossible, doubling their yields in the same square footage with a bed technique hiding in plain sight. Most gardeners have never questioned the wasted void between each leafy row. But the truth about how plants actually use space could change everything you thought you knew about growing food. The numbers don't lie. So why are we still losing out, and who first locked us into this pattern? A grower stands in the middle of a 4 by 8 foot raised bed, eyes moving from one green row to the next, frustration building with every glance at the empty soil between. The math is hard to ignore. Out of the 32 square feet in this bed, nearly 20 are bare or covered only by the shadows of leaves. That is 60% of the growing area sitting idle. It is not a mistake or a fluke. It is the standard result of following the same row pattern used on farms across the country. Rows spaced 18 inches apart, just like the books and seed packets recommend. Each plant sits in its own line with a wide walkway between the next. The logic made sense. When tractors were the main tool, machines need room to pass through, and so the beds were designed for steel wheels, not human hands. But for the person harvesting by hand, those walkways are little more than wasted ground. For small-scale growers, the consequences are impossible to ignore. Every spring, seeds and transplants fill the neat lines, but by mid-season, the empty gaps remain. Sunlight hits bare dirt. Water soaks into spaces where nothing grows. Weeds find a foothold in the open strips, demanding extra work just to keep them at bay. The grower adds up the numbers. 18 lettuce plants in a 4 by 8 bed, when the same space could be feeding dozens more. That is not a minor oversight. It is a harvest cut in half, a season's effort with only a fraction of the possible reward. The frustration grows with each passing year, especially when neighboring plots, using the same soil and seeds, somehow pull in twice the produce. The question hangs in the air. What is really holding back the harvest? The answer is hiding in plain sight, buried in the way these beds have always been built. Wide rows didn't start with gardeners. They were born from the age of machines. In the early 20th century, steel cultivators rolled out across American fields, reshaping how crops met the soil. The new standard wasn't set by the needs of lettuce or beans, but by the turning radius of tractor wheels and the width of mechanical implements. 18 inches, sometimes up to 36 inches, separated each row, not for sunlight or air, but so that heavy equipment could pass without crushing plants. Manuals and seed catalogues from the 1920s onward laid out these measurements as gospel, urging growers to keep their lines straight and their walkways wide. Farmers who once bent close to the earth now sat atop iron seats, steering between green stripes with plows and cultivators designed for efficiency at scale. The logic was simple. More space meant fewer plants lost to steel wheels, and easier passage for spraying, weeding, and harvest. On large acreages, this made sense. Labor was scarce, land was cheap, and the goal was to cover as much ground as possible as quickly as possible. The tools dictated the pattern, and the pattern became tradition. But as tractors grew larger and implements broader, the gap between plants widened even further. Seed companies printed charts showing row spacings, tailored to the latest machinery. Extension agents taught the same system to every new generation, whether they were working 1,000 acres or a backyard plot. The result was a design built for horsepower, not handwork, locked into place by decades of habit. Most small-scale growers never questioned why so much ground was left bare. They simply followed the blueprint handed down from a world run by machines. That legacy remains hidden in plain sight, shaping every harvest for those who grow by hand. A tape measure snaps taut across bare earth. The grower kneels, marking off 4 feet in width, then stretches out 8 feet, 12 feet, or even 16 feet for length, depending on the space. This is the blueprint for a bed that wastes nothing, a rectangle wide enough for 2 arms to reach the center from either side, but never so broad that a single foot needs to press the soil. The standard is 4 feet across, with the length tailored to the plot. 12 inches is the target height measured from the ground up. That foot of depth holds enough soil for roots to thrive, while the bed's sides form a clear boundary, no stepping in, no accidental compaction. Boards come next. 2 by 12 planks, untreated cedar, redwood, or composite lumber are cut to size. The ends are squared and corners joined with galvanized brackets or 3-inch deck screws, hardware chosen for strength and weather resistance. Each joint is checked for flush alignment, ensuring the frame sits level and stable. For beds longer than 8 feet, a center stake is driven into the ground at the midpoint of each side, then fastened to the boards. This prevents bowing as the bed fills with soil. Every measurement is deliberate, every fastener tight. These frames are built to last through seasons of rain, sun, and harvest. The bottom remains open, exposing the ground beneath. No wood or plastic lines the base. Instead, a single layer of cardboard is laid flat, edge to edge, covering the entire footprint. This simple barrier blocks light, smothering weed seeds left behind in the soil. The cardboard softens with the first watering, breaking down within weeks as roots and earthworms tunnel through. Unlike plastic, it lets water drain freely and allows roots to reach deeper layers as they mature. This design drains freely while feeding the soil below. The bed is set in place. Its sides stand 12 inches tall, clean and square, defining a growing space that will never be walked on. The grower checks the level, adjusting corners if needed so water will not pool at one end. Stakes and screws are double-checked. The only path runs along the outside, where feet can tread without harming the soil. Inside, the surface remains untouched, ready for the next step. With the frame finished and the cardboard in place, the foundation is ready. There are no gaps for weeds, no weak joints to shift under the weight of soil. The open bottom promises drainage, while the raised sides guard against compaction. Every detail, board thickness, hardware, bed width, serves a purpose, supporting the dense, productive planting that will follow. The structure is more than a box. It is a tool built for efficiency and durability, and the promise of a doubled harvest in half the space. Buckets of dark compost, light flakes of peat, and shimmering vermiculite tumble into a wheelbarrow, each ingredient measured in equal parts. The grower's hands plunge into the pile, mixing until the blend is uniform from top to bottom, a living soil, not just dirt. This is not ordinary garden fill. Compost brings the nutrition teeming with microbes and minerals from decomposed plant matter. Peat moss, or its sustainable cousin cocoa coir, locks in moisture, holding water like a sponge even on the hottest days. Vermiculite, light as popcorn, creates pockets of air, letting roots breathe and preventing compaction. Each element plays a role: nutrition, hydration, and aeration, balanced in a single mix. The frame fills inch by inch until the soil rises to just 1 inch below the top edge. Water pours over the surface, soaking deep, settling the mix. Any hollows are topped off, leaving a bed that is loose, fluffy, and ready for planting. This foundation is what allows intensive spacing to work. Roots can spread in all directions, drawing nutrients and water from every cubic inch. There are no hard layers, no dry pockets, no nutrient gaps. Every plant gets what it needs, no more, no less. A length of twine stretches across the bed, then another, forming a grid of perfect squares. Each square matches the mature size of the crop: 6 inches for lettuce, 12 inches for bush beans, and 2 feet for tomatoes. There are no rows, no wasted strips of bare earth. Instead, every square foot becomes a miniature farm, each plant occupying its own territory, spaced just far enough to reach full size without crowding its neighbor. The math is simple, and the results are dramatic. For lettuce, a single square foot holds 16 plants, 4 rows of 4, each with 6 inches of breathing room. In a 4-foot by 8-foot bed, that is 64 heads of lettuce. By comparison, the old row method fits just 18. Tomatoes, with their sprawling canopies, need more room. But even here, the numbers double. 8 plants fit where only 4 would grow in rows. The difference is not subtle. The same bed, the same amount of soil, but more than 3 times the harvest for leafy greens and double for fruiting crops. This is not theory. It is a direct outcome of how plants grow when given the right environment. With rich, loose soil beneath and every inch occupied above, sunlight, water, and nutrients are used with near perfect efficiency. There are no empty spaces for weeds to take hold, no wasted water soaking bare ground. Every square is a productive unit, turning the grower's effort into the maximum possible yield. The grid transforms the bed from a patchwork of plants and walkways into a living mosaic, every piece working together to feed more people from less land. A dense bed demands a new kind of care. Water, nutrients, and timing all scale up with the number of plants packed into each square foot. The first step is irrigation. Drip lines snake across the surface in a tight grid, each emitter spaced to match the planting squares. This system delivers water straight to the roots, drop by drop, without soaking the walkways or letting moisture evaporate from bare soil. Overhead sprinklers waste water and encourage leaf disease. Drip lines keep the soil evenly moist and the foliage dry. In a 4 by 8 foot bed, one main tube runs the length with 1/4 inch lines branching out every 12 inches. A simple timer handles the schedule, supplying a steady trickle each morning. In hot spells, a second cycle after sunset keeps the roots from drying out. The goal is consistency. No droughts, no floods, just reliable moisture for every plant. Feeding follows a strict calendar. With 3 times as many plants drawing nutrients, the soil needs constant replenishment. Every 4 weeks, a fresh 1-inch layer of compost is spread across the surface, then gently worked into the top 2 inches of soil around the stems. This side dressing delivers a steady supply of minerals and organic matter, fueling growth without the spikes and crashes of synthetic fertilizer. The compost feeds soil microbes as well as plants, building a living network that unlocks nutrients all season long. At the end of the year, a thicker layer, 2 inches deep, blankets the entire bed, decomposing over winter to rebuild what the harvest removed. Spring soil tests guide any extra amendments, keeping nutrients balanced and available. Mulch is the silent partner in this system. A 2-inch layer of straw or shredded leaves covers the soil between plants, holding moisture, blocking weeds, and buffering temperature swings. Mulch keeps roots cool in summer and warm in fall while breaking down slowly to add organic matter. It also stops raindrops from compacting the soil, preserving the loose texture that dense roots require. Companion. Planting and succession drive the harvest higher. Basil and tomatoes share a grid. Basil repels pests and thrives in the shade of tomato leaves. Radishes fill the gaps between lettuces, maturing in weeks and leaving space behind as the lettuces expand. As soon as one crop finishes, another takes its place. Peas in spring, beans in summer, spinach in fall. This relay keeps every square inch productive, with 3 distinct harvests cycling through the same bed each year. The result is a living system where water, nutrients, and timing all work together, supporting a harvest that far exceeds the old row-by-row approach. A patchwork of small farms across North America is rewriting the rules of yield and space. In Oregon, a grower faced with rising land costs and stubbornly average harvests made a bold decision. 5 sprawling beds, each planted in the old row style, were consolidated down to just 2 intensive beds. The result was not a drop in output, but a match. Every pound of produce, every bunch of greens, was still harvested, now from less than half the ground. The rest of the land, once overrun with walkways and weeds, became room for new crops or simply left to recover. The numbers were clear. 2 beds, managed with dense planting and careful succession, equaled the yield of 5. What changed was not the soil or the seeds, but the logic of how space was used. In Texas, a salad greens operation was struggling to keep up with demand from local restaurants. The switch to intensive beds delivered a shock to the system. By packing crops like arugula and lettuce into grids instead of rows, the farm saw yield per square foot jump by 180% in the very first season. Suddenly, beds that had once produced a few dozen pounds a week now turned out enough greens to keep chefs happy and wait lists long. Harvests came faster too, as succession planting filled every gap as soon as a tray was emptied, keeping production rolling from early spring through late fall. The operation did not need more land, it needed a smarter way to use what it already had. Further north in Quebec, the story plays out on a quarter-acre micro-farm. Permanent raised beds run the length of the plot, each one managed with the same intensive methods: square-foot spacing, constant compost top-ups, and a rotation that never leaves soil bare. This tiny farm supports a full-time income. The beds yield enough vegetables to supply a weekly market stand, a handful of restaurant accounts, and a loyal group of local families. The math behind it is simple. By eliminating wasted walkways and packing each bed with as many plants as the canopy can hold, the farm multiplies output without ever expanding its footprint. Across climates and crops, the pattern repeats. Where traditional rows once limited what was possible, intensive beds open the door to higher yields, shorter harvest cycles, and real profitability on even the smallest plots. The evidence is written in the harvest logs, the market receipts, and the steady march of produce from field to table. For growers willing to rethink the shape of their beds, the rewards are measured not just in pounds, but in possibilities. Land is no longer cheap, and global arable acreage per person keeps shrinking. Small-scale growers face rising costs and tighter space every year. This technique turns scarcity into abundance, yielding more food from less earth without compromise. As cities sprawl and resources tighten, the real question isn't how much land you have, but how wisely you use every square foot. Imagine what could change if everyone did.